Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. So, today I'm sitting down with Shaun Busuttil, a writer, photographer, and researcher who is currently working on his PhD about digital nomadism. With an impressive portfolio of published work, including National Geographic, Traveler, and Lonely Planet, Shaun shares his unique perspective on intersection of travel, culture, and politics. In our conversation, we explore how digital nomadism affects its environment, the role of politics in shaping this lifestyle, and the core values that are shared by many who embrace this way of living. We research topics that could consider taboos within the nomad community, including loneliness, fear of commitment, and what the future holds us when we will be old. I really enjoyed this conversation. Shaun's curiosity about the word, his ability to deep dive into any topic, and his genuine self-reflection were a true inspiration. I'm your host, Bori, Vigh, and this is In Search of Something Different, where we talk about new ideas, points of views on how we live, work, and connect. Welcome to the show, and let's jump right into this next episode. Welcome to the show about new ideas on how we live, work, and connect. This is Bori, Vigh, your host, and in the following episode, together with my guests and listeners, we are again in search of something different. Hello, Shaun. Thanks so much that you accepted my invite.
No worries. Great to be here.
Yeah. So for everyone, we are in Copenhagen together. This is pretty much the last week that we could make this interview, and my microphones and everything just arrived in time so that I can interview you, which I really wanted to. And just a little bit of an insight, every time I meet Shaun, we just get into these really mind-blowing conversations. And I don't want to have set the standards really high right now. Maybe it's going to be really mediocre.
For sure.
But after one of our conversations, I felt like this is what I really like to do. I really like to talk to people, and I really like curious people. So that's why the whole idea came up that I'm going to do this show, and that if the idea came because of one of our conversations, of course it was behind my back for a few years, but then it would have been such a pity if I don't have this talk with you. So
Yeah.
thanks so much for inspiring me to do that.
No worries. Thank you for inviting me. It's really cool to talk to you. Like, I love having conversations with you as well. So yeah, the feeling's mutual.
Awesome. And we've already had an interview before because Shaun is a researcher and you are a digital nomad who researches digital nomads, which kind of an inception. So now the tables have turned. I'm going to ask questions, but of course, let's just keep it chill and then let's see how it goes. So can you tell me a little bit more like so you're a nomad for 10 years? That's really cool. You've been doing this before it was cool. So how did this whole thing started?
Yeah, so I started traveling back in 2012. I was a travel agent for a couple of years, and I've always loved travel, and I love to sell travel and everything, which is what I was doing. But then, 2012, I decided to quit my job and to sell my car, like the typical kind of nomad origin story, and I decided to embark on some traveling.
Were there any like moment when you were like, fuck this shit, like now was there like a trigger point?
I've always wanted to get out of Australia. Ever since I was young, I've always had this attraction to the world outside of Australia. And I first left Australia, I guess, on my own. I first left when I was 20, and I worked in Japan for a year teaching English. And I knew it, like, that was a really interesting time because I'd finished school. I did 1 year of TAFE, we call it in Australia. It's like a technical kind of college, and I studied sound production at TAFE. And I just remember I just got to this point where I just really wanted to leave Australia. I was just I found Australia boring, and I was just tired of it. And I ended up getting a job teaching English in Japan. I was recruited in Melbourne, so I got the job in Australia. And then I went to Japan 6 months later. But I remember, like, I didn't even tell my parents that I was leaving to go to Japan for a year until like 2 days before I left.
Oh my God.
Because I didn't want them to put up like make a big fuss about it and to put a party on. I just wanted to leave. And so that was probably the only point in my life where I felt really, really this strong urge to leave. When I left in 2012, it was more about, I just felt like, yeah, like I was selling travel for 2 years. Why wasn't I the one traveling? Like, why was I kind of stuck in this office, kind of making all these other people happy with their travel plans? I really wanted to do it. And initially the point was just to kind of travel for like a year, like around Southeast Asia. But then like a few months into traveling, I just kind of, I felt like, why, I don't want this to end. I don't want this to end. I want to continue traveling. And so then I started looking into ways to make money online, and one thing led to another. I wrote a book, an ebook actually, back in 2013 about how to get really cheap flights between Australia and Europe based on my travel industry experience. So we knew this trick in the travel industry on how to get really cheap flights to Europe from Australia. So I wrote a book exposing this loophole. I spent about 4 months writing this book, and I think I ended up selling like 10 copies, and I made $200. So it was a relatively a waste of time. But through that process, I came across, I learned about how other people were making money online, and I heard that people were making money writing SEO articles. So I first just started writing SEO articles back in 2013, and I called myself a freelance writer before I actually was. I made a website, and
So fake it till you make it.
fake it till you make it, yeah. And I literally spammed 1,000 marketing companies in Australia, and I sent them all the same email, basically introducing who I am, a link to my website, and and asking if they had any work. And so out of the 1,000 people that I emailed, and I mean literally 1,000, I bought an email, a list from Fiverr of 1,000 email of marketing companies, and I spammed them. It's funny, like Google kind of suspended my account, like once I did that, because like, hey, like you're not meant to be doing this, but then they reactivated it. And once it was reactivated, I had like 20 emails from these 1,000 companies that were interested in working with me, and that's how it all kind of started.
Amazing. So then you were already traveling, and then how did your parents take it?
Take that I was traveling, or that I was...
Yeah, because you only told them like two days before leaving.
Oh, that was
like, bye.
Yeah, that was Japan when I was 20. So I told them 2 days before, and then I went to Japan, and I traveled around. I went to Malta, I went to Thailand, came back to Australia. I did like university in Australia. After university, I did travel agency for a couple of years, and then in 2012, that's when I decided to leave. And I think my parents I'd always been traveling in my past, so my parents knew from probably when I was 18 that I was never going to stay in Australia. Like they just knew it. Like they didn't like it. They wanted me to stay in Australia, but they just knew my life wasn't here. So they're quite accepting of it. And to this day, they've been really supportive.
Nice.
And as long as I'm happy, they're happy kind of attitude, which I think you can't really ask for anything more from parents.
100%. So one thing that many people ask from me, you're doing this for 10 years now, so I've been Nomad for 8 years, so I keep getting this question from everybody: how long you can do this? So how long can you actually do this? What do you get this question as well?
Yeah.
And do you have an answer for this?
I think I'm always going to be doing this. I think talking just to go back to my parents always say to me, like my mum or my dad's like, haven't you had enough? Like, haven't you got it out of your system? This kind of thing.
Have a normal life.
Yeah. It's like, come back and have a normal life. But I think some people are always going to be inclined to be nomadic. I mean, there have been nomadic people in the past. Some people don't like to settle. And there will always, I think, be nomadic people in the future, especially now with air travel, and now with remote work, it's so much easier now to move and to live in different places. And so for me, it's like, why wouldn't you if you can? But I think, we were talking before this interview just about how I think nomads and travelers in general are quite curious. So for people like us, you were like, well, we're curious about the world. We want to go out and explore the world. Why would we want to stay in one spot? It just doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that I think curiosity is one of the main drive forces. But do you have this feeling that this curiosity changed on like what you were curious like 10 years ago? Are you still curious about the same things?
I think I think I am. Like, you know, I often have this conversation with people, well, this debate, like, do people actually change? I I feel that your core personality, so the way that you look at the world, which I think includes your values, I think for most people, for the most part, they stay the same. Like how you view the world and your personality stays the same. And that's because I feel like I've stayed the same since I was young. I've always been curious, philosophical, all that stuff. I think that the quality has stayed the same. Yeah, but maybe to answer your question, has the object of that curiosity changed? Am I curious about different things? You know, since starting this PhD, definitely, I'm more curious about different things. So, I don't want to kind of go off on a tangent, but just to answer this question, before doing this PhD, I was less curious about maybe the effects of nomad communities and the effects of my lifestyle on other people, other host communities around the world. And I'd always only really see the positives and, kind of celebrate the lifestyle. And I do 100% celebrate the lifestyle. I think it's an amazing lifestyle. I love digital nomadism. But the more I research and more I read about tourism and travel, the more I'm now curious about how we impact these local communities that we're in, and how maybe we create conditions where power inequalities, economic inequalities are perpetuated because of people like ourselves.
Yeah, we've talked about this because so this island where we are right now in Kopangan, I think we both can agree that this is pretty much one of the best places, if not the best places to live this lifestyle. We have so much comfort here. We have workshops to ease the thirst that we have for curiosity, and but there's something missing here, and it's culture. We actually came to this extremely weird situation when we just hang out with like-minded people, but we are missing locals. I mean, I'm missing locals a little bit, and then some people don't even know more than kapung ka and sabari ka, which is like thank you and hello in Thai, and that's all, and maybe some of the Thai food names, but that's it. So isn't it interesting how we started because we were curious about living with different cultures, but then eventually we started to form our own little bubble all over the place. What's your intake on this?
Yeah, I think it's a paradox because we leave home because we want to go somewhere different and meet different people and kind of experience different cultures, but yet we feel safe and a sense of belonging amongst people like ourselves. So we seek similarity when we go overseas. And it's for me it's a paradox, but I can see how it all makes sense, because I think human beings, we love what we want, novelty, we want difference, we want things that are new, but then we also want things that are similar, safe, and familiar. And so the way that I look at it, the way that the nomad lifestyle kind of plays out and is able to kind of get both needs met is so nomads go to another country and they live in a different country. So they're surrounded by difference, otherness. But then within that landscape, they create bubbles of familiarity and a sense of belonging with other nomads. So they can get that sense of feeling like they belong by hanging out with their other nomads, but whenever they want, they can easily step out and catch a bus or a train or go down, a street and be surrounded by complete otherness. So they're able to kind of get both needs met depending on how they kind of move around. But it is interesting, and what I have only recently learnt, really, not recently, I guess I haven't really tried to learn more about it, but you know, a lot of the service workers here are Burmese.
Yeah.
So when we, and not even Burmese, Burmese is an ethnic group within Myanmar. Some of them are Karen, like they're from Karen state and Chin state, so they don't even identify as Burmese. And the funny thing is, it's so, I've been saying Kop Kun Kap, like thank you in Thai to these people, they probably don't
It's
even
not their
know the
language.
language.
I know. I felt the same way. And we just created this island. I don't think that there were too many Thai people
Nah,
like 30 years ago either. So I think we just hijacked an island
yeah.
in Thailand.
Yeah, but doesn't it, like, it speaks to our ignorance that we don't even know that the
Yeah.
people serving us are not even from
100%.
Thai.
And
We
then
don't
the
even
word
know.
serving, and then that's like, yeah, we are going down a
Yeah.
slippery slope, but we talk about this all the time. Like, it is so unfair that if we are coming from maybe a little bit more peaceful place, and then people who are not as lucky as we are, they're working 12 hours a day. And there's no way to change it because it's economics, and it's like how the word works. But how do you think it's going to, because now we have Kopangan, I think there's other places like this all around the world.
Yeah.
How do you see that it's going to change the future economically, maybe, or just
Remote work and digital nomadism?
or just this gentrification that we are doing here?
Yeah, well, I mean, some people have a lot of hope that remote work's going to kind of level out and balance the opportunities. So, you know, people, for example, in Pakistan or in Ukraine will be able to work for maybe, you know, American companies or European companies and earn like a decent salary. I'm a bit more pessimistic. I feel like remote work is, and digital nomadism really is going to favor Westerners, and it's going to give us the power. We're the ones that are coming into these spaces and having a better quality of life.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, we're actually making the local quality of life less by rising rental prices. For example, Bali is overrun with scooters and traffic. So like the quality of life for Balinese, just in terms of moving from A to B, now it's taking a lot longer for them to get from A to B. So you could say, okay, that's not a good thing for their quality of life. They're spending more time in traffic. Rental prices, food prices. You know, there's a project called Plumia. Have you heard of this? They want to start like a country on the internet. The fact is, a lot of our privilege as Westerners, in terms of movement, comes down to our passport, really. Like, it's a political question. It's a political issue, who can move and who can't move.
Yeah.
Myanmar, for example, these people have been displaced or pushed out of Myanmar because of the political situation happening there. They're forced to be here. Westerners like us and digital nomads, we have the freedom to move around, but that's only because our passports are relatively strong. And the digital nomadism is a viable lifestyle for most of us, precisely because of geo arbitrage, because we earn money in a strong currency, but we live somewhere that's cheaper. If you already come from a country that has a low cost of living relative to what we get, and you're paid in a local salary relative to where you live, you're not really going to get the benefit of moving to Thailand, because it's just going to be basically as expensive as it was back home.
Yeah.
And my other thought is, if employers can now hire someone from Ukraine or Myanmar to do programming work, they're not going to be paying these people the same that they would pay a European or an American. They're not going to.
No.
So that, if you think about it, that may put downward pressure on salaries for that particular job. So if programmers, you know, in America get, let's say, 100 grand a year, but now because they can hire from Ukraine or Myanmar, they may say, okay, well, we're going to give you $30,000 a year. That might put downward pressure on the average salary of what a programmer would get. So maybe remote work might not actually benefit workers as much as we think. It's just an idea that I'm thinking. I don't know if that's going to play out or not, but
what I'm thinking is that I think, well, it's going to be true that then it's going to push people to, like, for example, Americans to be more entrepreneurial. So up until now, you were working as a programmer and you would get that money, but then you would need to find another type of enterprise. You need to do another kind of job in order to earn the same amount of money. But then I think it might be more like a character question if you're like an employee or remote worker or what you do.
Yeah. It's interesting how it's going to play out. But yeah, we are definitely experiencing a lot of what's termed transnational gentrification.
Yeah.
Some people, I think, rightfully kind of call what's happening, a form of neocolonialism. So what was colonialism in the past? People with power coming in and kind of taking over a space. That's kind of what's happening in a lot of nomad cities, Chiang Mai, Bali.
Yeah.
We're coming in, we're infiltrating the space, we're living there, and also now local businesses or the land is now kind of, let's say there's been a fruit and veg shop in this street in Chiang Mai for generations. Now the owner's like, you know what, I'm just going to sell this fruit and veg shop, or I'm going to turn it into a cafe to appeal to the nomads that are coming in. So now the businesses and the very space in these cities is being catered now towards foreigners, not for the locals that live there.
Yeah.
So we're kind of taking over the space. We're taking over the businesses that are there. A lot of these cafes in Koh Phangan, like the price of a coffee is about, let's say, 80 baht, 100 baht. A lot of these service workers are only getting paid 300 baht a day. That's a third of their wage in a coffee. So a lot of them can't even afford to drink coffee with us.
Yeah.
But yet it's in their space, it's in their neighborhood, it's in their backyard. So that's I think that's something that we need to be mindful of.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, like, let's say that you're earning 50 euros a day in your home. Let's just say that you're earning 50 euros. And then just imagine that a coffee would cost 150 euros. And you give out these coffees.
Exactly.
That's like just so that we give a little bit of perspective of what's happening. And then on the other hand, what I'm feeling about this is that we can, and then I felt really bad about this as well. And of course, there's one way of like showing respect and then, being mindful about these kind of things. But can we actually do something about this?
It's interesting because I was talking to someone today about, the reason why people come to Thailand is because it's cheap. Why is it cheap? Many reasons, but a crucial reason is the price of labor is cheap. That's what keeps services low, because they're not paying the staff what would pay our staff in Australia or Europe or whatever. If for example we started to pay local staff more because we feel like, okay, yeah, we should really be helping these people, then Thailand stops being an attractive destination for nomads.
Yeah.
And now we're in this bind where we love Thailand because it's cheap, because it enables us to have a better quality of life. So kind of there's a disincentive to raise the standard of living for the locals, because then that's going to push us out or make Thailand not as attractive to us anymore. So we have this tension between, okay, well, what's good for me and what's good for the host society, and they conflict at the price point.
Yeah.
Now, it's very difficult to kind of answer that, but I think, what can we do? There's talk about paying some kind of local tax.
Yeah.
Maybe
that
a
would
way
be
to
amazing.
do it. Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Of course, some people say, well, and it's true, like we are paying sales tax, for example, VAT, when we buy stuff, when we rent apartment, that goes to the country. Of course, whether any of that money actually goes to the community or if it goes in someone's pocket.
That's a problem, yeah. Corruption might be a big problem. what raised the question, because we started this whole conversation about it might be that that we started traveling because of curiosity, but eventually it comes down, we love comfort as well.
Yeah.
And then in the beginning, I'm sure you did the backpacking and then the hostel life, and then you were like, I don't care where I'm sleeping. It's just like I just want to see the world. And now we are living in this really cool places. And then right now where we are recording this, I'm going to post a picture about this, but we can see the ocean while we are talking, and
It's beautiful.
it's about to have sunset, and then this is our everyday life. So I think it's curiosity and comfort.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Yeah.
that we are looking for.
Yeah. And like the whole, if you ask a lot of nomads and a lot of, expats or whatever, lifestyle migrants is another category, why they are there, it's for a better quality of life. And what does that really mean? Well, it means, okay, there's the weather. Yeah, maybe you live in a place with better weather or you like to be near the ocean. But fundamental to any kind of quality of life is having the financial resources to live in a nice place, to eat nice food, to have more disposable income.
Yeah.
To have more time, basically.
Yeah.
And how do you have more time? Well, you have more time by hypothetically, or potentially at least, if you live somewhere like Thailand, you don't need to work as much to pay ends meet. So in London, for example, you need to earn, or let's say Australia, you need to maybe earn $3,000 or $4,000 to pay for your accommodation,
that's
food, and
crazy.
everything. In Thailand, you could earn 1,000 and live. So potentially you work a quarter of the number of hours that you work back in Australia. You have more time. When people talk about work-life balance, I feel what they're really talking about is less work, more free time. That's balance. Having less work to do and more free time for themselves. So yeah, obviously we're able to, by living in Thailand, have more free time. So this quality of life question comes down to money. For a lot of people, money makes the world go round, yeah. And it helps us actually go around and as nomads and live in different places and.
So I agree with money, but it came so a new idea out of this is that I think we are more mindful about money. On the other hand, we are a little bit more creative maybe about money. How you said you were sending all these emails to all these different people, and then because you had the motive to change your lifestyle, therefore you came up with an idea on how to stay on the road. Same for me.
Yeah.
And I think same for everybody who does this lifestyle, that you wanted to figure out like how to earn more money or how to earn money online or how to be better with money and change the mindset around money. Because meanwhile we are talking about how it's important and how it changes your lifestyle. I'm coming from Hungary, and then honestly you can rent an apartment there for 400, 500 euros in the city center. And there's many nomads who are going to Budapest because it's cheap. And I completely forgot during this conversation that I'm coming from that country. And eventually you will be able to change your reality or your thinking about money and then how much you can earn if you're hanging out with international people.
Yeah.
So I know that it's a different thing with Thai people or Burmese people or people from Myanmar to be a Hungarian because of the passport. But that's also another thing, that you think that you cannot live in Thailand, for example, coming from Hungary or coming from another country, because you get used to that you spend 500 euros in accommodation, and that you only earn, let's say, I don't know, like 1,000 or 2,000 euros a month. And that's like a good salary in Hungary.
Yeah.
So I think it also comes down to, are you educating yourself? Are you able to speak languages? Are you like English? Let's be honest, English is enough. And can you make a better living and better money?
Yeah, no, totally. I 100% agree with you. And, I love Budapest as well. Budapest,
I know.
favorite city in Europe, if not the world. Amazing.
So let's go back to curiosity. Do you think people who are not nomadic, are they less curious?
I do have a sense that it's interesting because, I think, maybe most human beings are curious. Obviously, there are different degrees of curiosity. And I think what I find interesting about nomads is that we want to scratch that curiosity itch overseas, but you could easily do new things in your own city. You could read a new book, is a new experience. You could watch a new movie. You could go to a new cafe, a new restaurant, learn a new hobby. There are so many ways that you can, satisfy this search for new experiences. Why? So I feel like, yeah, I think most human beings are curious, but I think, what is it that makes nomads or travelers try to scratch that, curiosity itch overseas? Because that's different. Like, why do we travel so far away for a new experience when we could get it back where we're from? And I don't really have an answer for that. I don't know why we want to leave to find something new.
I have an idea about this. Maybe it's because we can start from zero, because we can be foreigners a little bit, and then we don't have any other perspectives on us. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
could
not
be.
a daughter. I mean, I'm a daughter, but like not intensively, and I'm not like, you can start over.
Yeah,
This is one thing, and then
yeah,
maybe the other thing is we're choosing friends, and we're choosing so definitely we are curious about culture. Like, I don't think that you can start to become a digital nomad if you're not curious about what else is out there, right? But I think it's also that there is friends that we had who are, I would call them location based, like the people who grew up with you, they sat next to you in class, or they were living in the house next door. And these are your friends, and they might be still your friends, but they might have different values than you.
yeah.
But what keeps you together is loyalty and experiences, not necessarily the way you think, or the things that you like, or the perspective on the world. Meanwhile, when we start traveling, we start finding people with whom we are sharing the same values. And that's, for me at least, that's something that keeps me going. And then that boils down to, are you lonely? The question that we get sometimes. That I feel more lonely when I'm surrounded by people who don't understand me.
Yeah, like an idea that just came to me now, like why we go overseas to, scratch that curiosity itch. I feel like a lot of nomads never really felt like they belonged where they were from, or they felt like an outsider or an outcast or the black sheep of the family or the society. So when you don't feel this sense of real belonging where you're from, there's less to keep you there. Okay, so like if you don't feel like you really belong somewhere, then naturally you're going to think, well, where do I belong? Well, where can I fit in? Where can I fit in with? And that kind of relates to your point about nomads really feel connected and a sense of belonging when they're around people that also feel the same way, also have this curiosity, maybe also have felt this sense of not really belonging where they're from. And it's quite interesting that nomads are able to find that sense of belonging on the other side of the world with people that are very, very similar to them. So, the black sheeps of the world, or the marginal figures, or the outcasts of the world kind of fit in with each other. That's their tribe, the tribe of outcasts, or, it's not a negative thing. I think it's great to kind of have a different perspective to most people. I think it's a great skill to see the world in a different way. But I feel like, yeah, a lot of nomads do come from this background of not really feeling like they belong. So there is this sense of okay, well, if I don't like it here, what's over there? There's this curiosity about what's over there. So I think that could be maybe a reason why people feel this urge to leave and go somewhere new. Hoping to find somewhere where they finally feel at home. And then the question is, well, can you ever finally feel at home anywhere? Especially for nomadic people. Maybe we are kind of cursed to roam the world forever with this, never really feeling at home. And You know, there are some philosophers like Heidegger, this German philosopher. A lot of philosophers really, you know, existentialists have this idea that really we don't belong anywhere. We don't fit in anywhere. We don't even know why we're here on this planet. Like, you know, if you don't believe in God, why are we here? We're just here randomly. It's up to us to create our own sense of meaning. And if we're looking for somewhere, if we're looking for a home, like a home with the capital H, we're never really going to find it.
So you never found any place that you would call a home in the past 10 years?
I found, you know, I loved living in Budapest for a year and a half. I can feel at home in many, many different places. But I think after a while, maybe, you know, that human urge towards new experiences sometimes maybe after a while starts to build up, and you may feel yourself getting itchy feet because you want to go somewhere new. You know, it's like community, sense of belonging is great because you feel like you're a part of a collective, part of a community. At the same time, communities can also be stifling and restrictive, and everyone knows your business. You don't have any freedom. So then we may feel after a while that we want to get out and we want to go somewhere new. And a travel for a lot of people is this form of escape, or this chance for them to kind of reinvent themselves and to be different people. So we have this, I think it's a dynamic tension between this wanting to be a part of a community and also this wanting to break free. And I think about it, you know, historically, you know, when we used to live in relatively small communities before urbanization, before the Industrial Revolution, before we all moved into the cities to work in factories and then work. We left our small scale communities and we came into the city. And now I'm getting a bit more academic, but I just want to.
worries.
There's this cool this philosopher George Simmel, and he talked about, you know, the city was where man or woman can be free, because the very anonymity of the city, the fact that you don't know anyone and no one knows you, gives you this freedom to recreate yourself. So the city is simultaneously a place where you can be free, but it's also a place where you're anonymous and you don't know anyone and you can feel alienated from each other. Community is great because it gives you that sense of belonging, but it can also feel stifling and everyone knows your business. So we have these two kind of extremes, these 2 points, these two places where we want to be, but not forever, I don't feel. I feel like we want to go somewhere in the middle where we kind of have the freedom of the city or the freedom of anonymity and also the sense of belonging from the community. And what I think is amazing about the nomad lifestyle is that we're able to kind of switch in between. We're able to kind of get our community fix when we want it.
Yeah.
But then we're able to leave because we can work remotely and we have the freedom of movement. So then we can satisfy the freedom itch. And then eventually we want to go back to the community. So it's a dynamic kind of interplay. And that's why I think for me, I don't see myself staying in a community forever. And I don't see myself traveling forever. It's going to be a dynamic thing where I'm going in between, you know, these two extremes. And a lot of nomads, when you ask them, you know, how they see their future moving forward, they talk about bases, having multiple bases. And why do they love multiple bases? Because a base is somewhere where ideally you've cultivated a community, where you know people on the ground that are always going to be there, hopefully, when you get back there. So you can, you know, go back there, have your sense of belonging, but then you can leave and go somewhere new. So you're able to satisfy the freedom of the movement, and you're also able to satisfy that sense of belonging by dropping into community.
Yeah. You know, it made me, it reminded me of a memory when I was a teenager. I used to go to raves, like drum and bass parties. I still go to parties. Who am I kidding? And my move, so I had 3 best friends, and all 4 of us would go to a party, and then we would find a place which is going to be the base, and all 3 of them would actually stay there for the entire time. And me, after like 45 minutes, I would start to have an itchy feet, and I would go around and make new friends. And then after an hour or so, I would go back to the base. it's really funny that I actually became a nomad, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm going back, but then there were some times that I went back and they got busy, and then they had their own thing, or they went to the bathroom, or something happened, and I would go back and then they were not there, and I started to freak out, like, where are they? And then, you know, sometimes I have this feeling with communities that because in your memory they are there, but the community that you're talking about, they have their own shit to do as well. So they're moving around, and they go different, and maybe they are nomads and they're leaving. Thing that just happened here as well. Many people just left, and so maybe this community is always as well fluid in a way that you think they're gonna be there, or maybe just the values are going to be there. So when you go back, like if I would come back here and I would still go the same things, I would co-work in different places, and I would meet similar people, but maybe not the exact same people. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
Yeah.
Definitely makes sense. I feel like, you know, it's the people that make the place. And that's why if you go back to the same destination, but the people are not there, like, you know, in your example, when you went back to the base in the club, if they're not there anymore, that base doesn't really feel like it was. You feel, oh, it's not really, doesn't feel comforting anymore because the people weren't there. Physically, geographically, it's the same space, but the people really make the difference. And I think this is the interesting thing about nomad communities, is that I think you make a really excellent point. Like, the people in that community come and go, but the values or the types of people that come into that are going to be quite predictable, quite stable. So at least you know, okay, you can kind of make new friends, and they're going to be open to meeting people. But yeah, this is the challenge, I think, with you know, I think we were talking about this maybe a couple of weeks ago, but like the dissolution of social groups, you know, like that's the sad thing for me. You know, a lot of my friends that I was hanging out with here have all disappeared, and now I'm kind of like alone again, but in the same place. And Kopangan doesn't feel like Kopangan anymore without those people. And I think sometimes, like, the memories of our experiences kind of haunt the landscape. Because I drive past somewhere and think, oh yeah, that's where we did that, but they're not here anymore. Now I'm on my own, and now I think to myself, well, what am I going to do on Saturday night? Whereas when they were here, there was no question. It was like, yeah, I'm going to hang out with them. We're going to do something. Now I'm suddenly confronted with, oh, who am I going to hang out with on Saturday night? And this is, you know, the continual sense of like loss that you get in as a nomad. Like, you're building relationships, and then you're saying goodbye, and continually over and over and over again. And for a lot of people, that gets kind of tiring after a while. And a lot of people may kind of, once they find out, you know, a lot of nomads maybe, you know, protect themselves by not really putting time and effort and energy into someone that's only going to be here for a short amount of time, because they don't want to have this experience of getting close to someone and then having to say goodbye. So it's a defense mechanism. And, you know, in terms of, you know, the long-term sustainability of this lifestyle, maybe for some people, after a while, they're sick of doing that. They want to have this stable kind of group, which can maybe be resolved with the multiple bases.
Do you have
approach.
Nomad friends who you are meeting up when you're traveling?
Yeah. Usually, not as much as I think as the nomad base people. Like, I think you guys put more effort into, you know, making sure you can meet up somewhere. It's my impression anyway. Maybe
I think we have a channel that helps us. Like, we have somewhere where we know that we are going to be there, and then it's just therefore,
And I think that's a really good strategy for addressing this the social question over the lifestyle. You know, so my research is interested in like the strategies that nomads use to kind of reconcile these tensions. And I think what nomad base do, or what some nomad based communities do, by, you know, meeting up in different parts of the world, and then you can continue where you left off. You don't have to start again. It's it's an interesting situation, I think.
And just a little bit of an explanation. This nomad-based community is a second generation community of Nomad Cruise, which was I was part of the team for a few years, and now it's actually back. So maybe when the time it's going to go out, it's going to be back. So shout out for Nomad Cruise, and that's what we are talking about right now.
I'm hoping to go on the Nomad cruise this year.
Ooh,
Yeah, you?
May. Yeah,
Yeah?
I'm like we'll see
Okay.
what happens, but probably it's going to happen again.
Cool, yeah.
So you were saying that you're writing about the different solutions that we come up for the problems. What are the problems that we are fixing?
Yeah, so for example, I think you know, the tension between freedom and social connection. So if you have freedom of movement, you're taking yourself out of communities or social groups that you know, and you're having to formulate or to form new ones somewhere else. So there's this tension between, okay, well, if I move, I'm leaving the social connections, but I need the social connections. I want the social connections. How can I leave and have freedom, but still feel connected to people? This is the tension. And, you know, some of the strategies that nomads use to kind of try to, you know, have their cake and eat it too, so to speak, to get both needs met, is through joining, you know, nomad communities. So, you know, you come to Chiang Mai or to Koh Phangan, you join the WhatsApp group, you go to a couple of events, and now you've got a social group. Another strategy is, for example, co-working spaces. So co-working spaces, a lot of them these days organize community events. Oftentimes, community is kind of advertised as a benefit of joining. So, you know, join our co-working space and you have AC, fast Wi-Fi, good chairs, and a chance to join a vibrant nomad community. And that's interesting because these co-working spaces now are aware that loneliness and social isolation is a problem for nomads. So they're helping to address that by cultivating a sense of community in their spaces. They charge for it, which is, you know, kind of almost commercialized and commodifying community. But for some nomads, it's literally a price they're willing to pay because they're able to drop into a community. And, you know, as we kind of know, or, you know, nomads are very, very open to meeting new people. So you go to a co-working space, you go to an event, likelihood people are going to be very open to meeting you because they're also lonely. They also want to make connections.
Yeah.
So we both need each other.
So, you know, we met in a co-working space.
Yeah, we met in a co-working space.
We met in Copter, which is my favorite co-working space on the world.
I think at an event, like your goal setting.
Goal crushers, yeah. Still goes actually. It's Goal Crusher. It's a thing where we meet every week and then set goals and then double check on each other.
Yeah,
and then
that's
these
great.
goals, we did so many different things with the goals. Like some people get it's just a super interesting way how we can connect with each other, because I connect through you, not like specific networking questions like, so I don't know what you're doing, what's your job, blah blah blah, which is burning me out all the time, but more like, so you picking up meditation, or you're picking up, I don't know, whatever, and then telling stories of what's actually specifically happened to you. It's a super good way to connect.
It is, yeah. And why did I go to that event? Yeah, because I wanted to meet people.
Yeah, 100%.
That's why I did it. And also co-living spaces are a good way for people to kind of get their social needs met. And the reason why I say it's a strategy, because what you can do as a nomad is you can go to a co-living space, stay there for a month, you get your community fix, you drop into a community, you're a part of the community for a month, and then you can leave and go somewhere new. So then you have your freedom back. And so you haven't lost your freedom by having that sense of social connection. You've had the social connection for a month, now you go somewhere new, and you can do the same thing. Now you can go to Budapest and join a co-working or a co-living and get that sense of community, but then still hold on to your freedom, because nomads love their freedom. That's kind of what draws people into the lifestyle. They want more freedom to choose where they work, when they work, who they work with. And so we don't really want to give away that freedom. We want to try to retain it, but then we also do need the social connection, and oftentimes they conflict. So yeah, I'm interested in how they kind of, you know, are resolved, and they're not going to be resolved fully. Like, you're not going to be able to, you know, even if you have really deep connections with nomads you've met in Chiang Mai or Koh Phangan, yeah, they can be very, very deep, but they're not going to be the same as, you know, a friendship that you've cultivated over years.
Yeah.
You know, but it's enough for you to kind of feel a sense of belonging, and you can still continue your nomadic lifestyle. You don't want to go back to a settled society and then, you know, feel like you've lost your freedom.
Yeah. So we need to tackle one question that I think always arises when we are talking about, do you know what I mean? When it gets to freedom.
No.
So I think we always get into a little bit of this taboo of relationships and nomads, on how we are dealing relationships when there is like all these needs, and one of our values is freedom for sure.
Yeah.
So what's your take on how we are tackling this problem? Do you think it's a problem actually on how to stay or find relationships?
Are you talking like commitment issues?
Maybe, yeah.
I think, you know, if we were to agree that freedom is one of the main attractors to the lifestyle, people love the freedom of being able to choose. People want agency, the ability to do what they want to do. If we accept that that's a fundamental attraction to the lifestyle, then anything that takes away that freedom is going to be not welcomed. And if you think about what a relationship is, we could say, well, fundamental to any successful relationship is this willingness to compromise. And what is compromise? It's saying, okay, I want to do this, but you want to do that, so I'm going to let's meet halfway. So I'm not going to do what I really want to do. You're maybe not going to do what you really want to do, but we're going to meet halfway. We're going to compromise. For a nomad to compromise is kind of like, it's almost like sacrilegious. It's like, no, I don't want to compromise. I don't want to commit to and what is commitment? Commitment is, basically saying, I'm willingly giving away my freedom because I value you, or I value the place. If it's a rental contract, where nomads are so reluctant to sign a 6-month or a year lease because we don't want to commit to that place. We want to be able to move. So I feel like digital nomadism is primarily a single person's lifestyle, because we worship freedom that we're not really willing to give it away, and relationships require a certain amount of giving freedom away. Because it's not about you anymore. It's about the relationship. It's like another entity, It's about what's best for the entity. So, and not to say that, there are no nomad couples. Eventually, there are nomad couples, and, you spend time. I was with a girl for 1.5 years, and it was cool and everything. But, then it starts to break apart. And why does it break apart? Or maybe it's kind of unsustainable when both people are really trying to, exert their agency and do whatever they want. And, do you think nomads have this fear of, or they're unwilling to commit, and because they value freedom so much? Is this your understanding or your impression of the lifestyle?
It's a good question if it, the egg or the chicken. So was it like commitment issues first, and then you decide to not settle down anywhere, not working for the same company all the time? But eventually I am committed to a blog that I wrote for years and years, and I am committed to myself, and of course I call this bullshit, sorry, but and many of my friends I'm committed to. So I have friends for 6 years, 7 years who are nomadic, and I have friends for 20 years who I'm committing to. So I can commit. I think I do have commitment issues for sure, and I think many of the nomads have as well. And I think we are working on various depth of ourselves. But one thing because I think it's not like staying in a relationship that's a problem for us, because then it would be choosing you over the freedom, and then it would come into a question. But in the beginning, it's just like, I just want to be with this person because it's amazing, right? So there you don't really feel it. So
No.
then it would be that we have short relationships instead of no relationships. But the thing is that we actually, most of my friends, I'm not, of course I have nomad friends as well, but I would say like it's an 80-20 ratio. I think the idea is more like we get used to perfection, and we've talked about this already, but I really, I really believe in that ever since I eat the perfect food 3 times a day. I live in a perfect freaking paradise. I have the perfect weather. As soon as the weather is not the perfect on Kopangan, people leave. Like the hot season is coming up. That's why so many people left. And then going to Bali, where is the season right now. So we get used to perfection, and people are not perfect. So as soon as you get too close to someone, you're like, oh, but this person is like, I don't know, it's like, it's not like 2 meter high, or, you know, or it's just like not as kind as I want, or something. We come up with things because it's not like people are not perfect.
Yeah. I think that's a great way of looking at it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we want perfection, but don't you think, like, a lot of modern human beings, you know, in the West or whatever, are also kind of like that now, like with you know, like dating apps and everything, like they're like, okay, because we have so much choice now, we feel like we have so much choice that, like, if someone doesn't meet all of our criteria, we're like, oh, swipe left, next. Do you think that nomads are maybe more extreme in our perfection seeking, or do you feel like we do it in a slightly different way, maybe?
I think there's various things that comes up. I think this might not land well with somebody who's living the normal life, but I'm going to be brave and say
Yeah.
I think we are curious enough to figure out always amazing ways to live our lives. And I feel that many people around like 20, from 25 to like 35 are like, okay, there's this 10-year period when they're just like, this is a time to find a partner, because everybody does that. But we're just out in the playground still playing, and then having fun and building businesses and putting our creative forces in many places.
Yeah.
And for us, it's not as ride or die, you know, like have a relationship, or I'm not going to be useless in this world. So I think it's just not there for us as a core value. And I'm happy to be in a relationship if the relationship adds to my experience, you know. And yeah, of course, I was as well dating nomads, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
But eventually, I think it gets to the point of, because we ask questions on every areas of our life. We live differently, we work differently, we connect differently, we build communities differently, and we build relationships probably differently than others. Many nomad friends of mine, they're living in a way that they travel together, and then for 2 months they're not together. But I mean, they are together, but then they're not together. There's a lot of polyamory, a lot of open relationship. That can be another podcast episode about that. But I think it's because we are trying, like, okay, I'm not 100% sure that how our grandparents or parents even were doing marriage was like a healthy way of doing marriage. And we are like, okay, if that didn't work, what else is possible?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, nomads are, we're not happy with the status quo. We're not happy with the way things are done. Like, we want something more out of life, and you know, there's this kind of recognition. Well, there's this, you know, it's a familiar story. Like, you know, someone's been working. You know, I'm talking about nomads or travelers. You know, they've been working in a job for the last 10 years, and they kind of feel like there's got to be something. There's got to be more to life than this. So they want more. They want to, you know, they want to explore the world. They want to kind of, you know, develop themselves. It's no coincidence that nomads are also, you know, a lot of nomads into personal development or into going to the gym. They're trying to achieve perfection, as you said, in all different areas of their life: relationship, career, fitness, health, spirituality. We do want perfection. And so, yeah, like, we're not happy with the status quo. And I think, you know, I sometimes wonder whether people back home are happier than me. you know, because, you know, they seem to be quite content. Um, you know, I remember someone telling me a story about living in, you know, the former, you know, Soviet, you know, well, the USSR, you
Yeah.
know, maybe a country like Hungary or whatever, talking about how a lot of the older generation actually preferred living under that kind of rule because, okay, there was less freedom, there was less to choose from when you went to the supermarket, but then there was less to think about.
Yeah.
There was less analysis. You know, we have this analysis paralysis where we can do so many things. Like even nomads kind of sometimes get stressed out about where to go next
Yeah. Yeah.
because they can go anywhere. And so, you know, maybe free, and this is a quite a controversial, radical thing to say, but maybe freedom does not ultimately lead to happiness or well-being. Maybe too much freedom really kind of feels overwhelming and we feel a little bit lost. Maybe it's good to have just limitations in our lives, you know? So yeah, sometimes I think that people that haven't left or stay in one place, maybe they're happier because life is simple. It's like, yeah, I can go here, I can go there, and I know this person, I know that person. And yeah, a lot of nomads, they don't want that. They kind of, you know, they fetishize freedom. Like freedom is like, you know, like they worship at the altar of
Yeah.
freedom. But, you know, maybe ultimately it's not going to make them happy.
Yeah. But we do so many things that limits our freedom. Like we go to Vipassana where we cannot speak for 10 days, or where we go for ayahuasca retreats where can't even actually feel your body for like 8 hours. And
Yeah.
so we do play around with limiting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think freedom is kind of the entrance,
Mm.
but then curiosity keeps us going.
Yeah,
So
I agree. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
think freedom is one of, I wouldn't call freedom one of my core values, for example. Kindness and curiosity definitely there, but freedom, I'm not sure if that would be in the top three. Maybe in the top three.
What about like value, like agency, like the ability to act on, the ability to realize something that you want to do. So if you have the capacity to go there, you have the capacity to live there, do you value this power in agency? You know, the ability to act in the world instead of having the world only act upon you
Oh,
in
that's
order
it.
to
Yeah.
take action,
Leadership, yeah.
which is, yeah, like
Yeah.
agency, yeah.
That's a new word for me.
Yeah. I think maybe agency is a better word to describe why people get into the lifestyle. So, for example, we have more agency in terms of, okay, where do we want to live? We have the power, we have the ability to say, okay, I want to live in Mauritius. I can go live in Mauritius. We have that power. A lot of people around the world don't have this power.
There's one more thing that I think could be a good closure for this, and then just like elaborating on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then that we think. So we are the first generation of digital nomads, I would say, and
Yeah.
or maybe the second. So and then there's now the second generation,
Yeah.
like the post-COVID.
We're the OGs.
Yeah.
Original gangsters. Yeah.
But it's a little bit. There is this bumper sticker saying, "Don't follow me. I don't know where I'm going," and I'm thinking about the same. Like sometimes I'm like, yeah, we are actually so far so good, but you know what's gonna happen if you're. I just saw a TikTok about this old grandma, 95-year-old, opening Christmas presents. It's a 6-minute video, and I watched it and I loved it. She has dementia, but she's just super happy about all the presents, and there's a family there, and you know, sometimes I'm like, are we thinking about this enough? Like, what's gonna happen to us when we don't have the health? And we don't have the youth that we have now? Do we have a plan? Do you have a plan? I don't.
No, I don't have a plan.
This is gonna be an awesome ending for this 1
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, you know, there's that familiar kind of story where someone is lying, some old person that, you know, is lying on their deathbed, and they ask them, you know, do you regret anything? You know, what do you wish you did differently? And, you know, usually the answer is, yeah, I wish I'd traveled more, I experienced more, I saw the world, you know, or I loved more, I read more, I thought more. So I think, you know, we're kind of able to do that. We're doing this stuff. We're living, we're traveling, we're learning. And so I think, personally, I think this is the best use of my time. You know, I'd rather be, you know, we talked a little bit before about the different ages. You know, the first stage is where you grow up and you reach maturity. The second age of the life course, you know, this is what some sociologists kind of, they have this life course paradigm of life. First stage, you grow up, that's your adolescent years, maybe up until you're 18. Then begins your productive age, where you work, you build your finances, you build a home, you build a family, and then you get to like 68 and you retire, and then you live. That's when you travel, you kind of buy the sports car, you do all the things that you wanted to do. And I always thought, and you know, many people think the same way, why wait? Like, why, you know, you don't have your health when you're old. You don't have, you know, and if you buy a sports car, you're driving at like 20 kilometers an hour because you're old. I think for me, I would rather live that third age now, because I don't know what's going to happen in 20 years. You know, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, people also say, you know, you should be, you know, for nomads that are living paycheck to paycheck, you know, maybe earning $1,000 a month, which is enough to survive in Thailand, but maybe they're not saving anything. The question is, yeah, you should really be saving money, because how are you going to retire? The thing is, if you choose to retire in a country like Thailand, you don't need to be saving a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? But that's sad in a way, because to go back to agency, it would be cool to be able to choose where you want to retire. If I want to retire in Australia or Hungary or America, the fact may be when we're older that we don't have any choice on where we can retire. We can only retire in, quote unquote, the global south, because of the lifestyle that we've lived. And that may be a sad end to the story, because you're kind of exiled in a way from your own country because you can't afford to retire there. And that happens to a lot of people now. Like a lot of people in Chiang Mai, for example. I met an Australian guy that's retired. He can't afford to live in Australia, so that's why he lives in Thailand. But you know what? Thailand's not a bad place to be.
No, it's pretty much amazing.
Yeah. So if we think about, you know, what the future is going to be like for people that can work remotely and that are willing and able to move around, maybe we can still kind of live a nice, you know, retiring kind of end to our lives.
I have a few ideas that just now that we are talking. I think one of the things that you do amazing, you said it's amazing what you say, like you're living the retired life right now. Plus, I think we both love our jobs. I think so. We work and we love our jobs.
Yeah.
And so we actually having having time of our lives, literally. And I don't know where it's going to go when we are going to be older, but we learn leadership now, and we learn how we can make choices, and our health, related to our health as well, and related to many other things. And I think by the time we're going to be older, I think we're going to as well slow down. I can see it on myself. I don't know how you feel about it, but when I started traveling, it was like 3 days. Every 3 days, I was just like, what else is there? Like that curiosity was way too much for me. And then now I barely can leave this place. And I think maybe, yeah, we are the first generation, and we don't know what's gonna happen, but we learned so much skills that I think towards the end, when we are going to have our last few decades, hopefully, maybe we're gonna be more slow, and we will be able to make new decisions, and maybe, you know, saying like, I kind of don't put freedom as my priority anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, I think, yeah, like we go through periods of time where maybe freedom is at the top of our value hierarchy, and we do anything to satisfy that. And then we go through periods where, let's say, yeah, social connection is at the top of our priority list. And we flip in between the two. And yeah, maybe as you get older, maybe there's more of a tendency to go towards the security and the stability, for sure, definitely. Yeah.
And then there was another time, and that's another idea, that right now we have 3 generations, for example, at a Christmas, right? So we would have like grandparents and then parents and kids, and I would feel that all the 3 generations are in their own bubbles. So if you would use curiosity to be curious what the next generations who just been born now, like my niece or my goddaughters, or even like the next generation, the people who are 20, 30 years, because we're gonna have these amazing experiences of life. And then we saw technology being born and then flourishing. And if we manage to stay open to the new generations and connect to the new generation, even if we are not related, and they choose to be our friends and we choose to be their friends, then we are not bounding people to visit us at Christmas and bring us presents, but people want to come and, not because we are blood related, but just because generations are not going to be so self-centered.
Yeah, for sure. I think, society is quite segmented. We have these people, those people. What I really like about digital nomadism is it's blurring a lot of these once kind of clear boundaries, between, for example, boundaries between home and away. Like, what is home and away when you always live on the move? You were talking before as well, like a lot of these kind of concepts that we use, these binaries that we have, they're analytically useful. They help us make sense of the world, but they don't actually reflect reality. Reality is a lot messier and fluid. And maybe remote work and, even the institution of co-living spaces, the idea that grown adults are voluntarily going to live with each other instead of having their own home. That's a radical move. Adults are not meant to live with other adults. They're meant to live with their family and build a family. So maybe in the future we're going to have this situation where there's less of a kind of a generational split, but we all kind of inhabit the same space. Imagine like a co-living place where there's, like a 20-year-old, a 50-year-old, and 40-year-old, 30-year-old, all going out for dinner, all kind of becoming a social group. That is really going to change. It's going to change things up when you get older. They're not going to be kind of obligated to see you, but they're going to want to see you through the generations.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think this is the end of it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for talking to me again.
Anytime.
Really perfect. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Anything else you want to maybe add where people can reach you?
If people want to keep up to date with my stuff, my website, which is my name, www.shaunbusuttil.com. And they can just kind of, see what I'm up to.
All right, we're going to put this in show notes. And thank you one more time.
Thank you.
You are listening to the In Search of Something Different podcast, where we talk about new ways and ideas on how we live, work, and connect. If you like this episode, don't forget to give us a 5-star rating, as it helps in this word. And also, you can say hi on Instagram. You can find the show under In Search of Something -different. I'll come back to you soon with the next episode, but until that, don't forget to stay curious.